All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We are here with episode 5 of our New Jersey Veteran Series. So people that have been listening to the show know that for the month of November, we've been highlighting New Jersey-based veterans, telling their stories. Today's episode is no different. We are joined by Krystyna Cechulski. Krystyna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you were pretty surprised that I said that last name correctly right out of the gate.
It was perfect. It was really, really good. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Of course. Well, I needed to make sure so I didn't mess it up. I have asked about last names before we even start recording, and then I get in the recording and I actually say it wrong. So I did psych myself out a little bit, but I nailed it. So as you know, this is our New Jersey Veteran Series. You have the honor of being our first female veteran that we've had so far. So again, I mentioned at the outset, they've all been awesome episodes so far. So you have no pressure, but you also do have a lot of pressure because they've been all been great. But we want to learn a little bit about you. So people that have been listening to the show, and I mentioned this to you before we actually started recording, we're basically going to kind of tell your story, learn about your life, pre-military life during the military, and life after the military, and all the stuff that you're doing now. So we'll start with the first part. So we're going to learn a little bit about Krystyna pre-military. So I asked this to basically everybody. It's been a consistent question on the show, regardless of the episode. Are you born and raised in Jersey?
I'm born and raised in New Jersey.
Love it. Where?
And I was born in Irvington, and I lived there for some time, and then I moved down to Monmouth County, Howell, and now I live in Ocean County, in the Bayville area. So
okay.
Been here for a while.
Awesome.
All 36 years.
Nice. So that's great because obviously that is the whole point of the show, people from Jersey. But so living down in Irvington, Monmouth County, Ocean County, all that kind of stuff. What was life like for early Krystyna? What type of activities were you involved in kind of growing up and in your formative years?
So my parents are they're from Poland. My whole family is from Poland. I'm a first generation American, so first generation New Jerseyan as well. Happy to say that. So culturally, I spent a lot of time with my family. I spent a lot of time with my cousins growing up. My cousins were like my best friends. So, my mom would always go visit her sister, and all of us cousins, we would always do things growing up. The older we got, the more difficult it became as kids, kids get into sports or activities. So I became a nerd, right? Because I kind of lacked that social skill outside the family. I was a really big nerd. I loved to read. I loved to arts and crafts. I would just go walk in the woods and pick things and put them together. But I spent a lot of alone time. I didn't do much until I got into high school. And then, I played the sports, soccer, lacrosse. I played roller hockey. I was the only girl on my team. So I'm not unfamiliar with being the only female in situations, right?
Yeah.
So growing up, still a nerd, went to college, went to grad school, traveled a lot. A little reckless in the early 20s. I'm sure like many of us are. And then, then I joined the military.
Okay. Yeah. This episode's almost over. All right, perfect. Yeah. So take me through that, being a first generation American, and just trying to learn the ins and outs of kind of life here and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So if I almost feel like a third culture kid. They call us third culture kids, right? Because we celebrate a lot of things from the Polish background, different holidays, different traditions, foods, whatever that might be. We celebrate Christmas. My family celebrates Christmas. So we celebrate more of Christmas on Christmas Eve than we do Christmas. Christmas is all right, that's fun. We go do whatever. But Christmas Eve, a bunch of us kids all the cousins, we would get together and we would go look for the first star. And when you see the first star, then you would go open up the Christmas gifts, right? So we opened up our gifts on Christmas. And a lot of my peers, kids my age wouldn't relate to that. They'd be looking forward to Christmas with Santa in the morning. You don't sleep, you wake up, you run down, right? I was like, I already opened my gifts. You guys are late, right? So I was able to relate to the Polish culture, but when I would go to Poland as a kid, I didn't fit into the culture either because I was American.
Right.
Jeans here when I was a kid, jeans in America were right? It was everyone wore jeans here. going to Poland and Eastern Europe after the fall of the communist bloc in the late 80s and whatnot. It was very poor. If you wore jeans, you were rich, right? You had like people would smuggle in jeans and sell them. I shouldn't say that, but we would bring jeans and sell them, and like people would pay top dollar for them.
Yeah.
So either way you looked at it, you were an outsider. I was part of the American culture, but was I really, right? And then was I part of the Polish culture? Not really. So they call us like the third culture kid. We kind of looked for other people that were first generation. And kind of integrated those cultures. So it was pretty cool. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about different cultures. Then you start making up your own because you don't know where you fit in. And
right.
I guess we're a little weird, but
right. No, it's honestly not that weird. But I guess like my mom, well, I guess my grandma's from Italy. So like my mom and my grandfather's from Brooklyn, like your classic Italian Brooklyn guy. So I guess like my mom has like sort of that like different things that my grandma had brought over and all that kind of stuff. But so in like your family dynamic, you mentioned like a lot about cousins and all that. Were they also first gen Americans, or were they here already and then you guys came?
I have 2 cousins that were born in Poland, and the rest of about 10 or so, they're all born in America, New Jersey. We're all from New Jersey.
Oh, awesome. So it's like a whole big group.
The whole big group.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so going through life, like kind of doing your own thing early on, and then going to high school, playing the sports, doing all that kind of stuff, going to college, going to grad school. What were some of like, what'd you go to college and grad school for?
So I went to college. Initial intention was to go into law because I wanted to make positive change. I wanted to work in government. So I went to Rutgers for political science. Drank too much, had a little bit too much fun, still graduated, right? But nothing with a GPA to be proud of. I realized I didn't like it, right? Because a lot of politicians are scumbags. Right? So that's not what I wanted to do. But I also kind of liked it because it's, you get to just argue, debate all day, make your point. You're wrong, you're right, whatever it is. So I went for political science, and like most liberal art degrees, it's useless, right?
I also have a political science degree, and as you can tell, I am crushing it with that degree.
Right? It's like, go us, poli-sci kid. Where'd you go to school? Did you go in New Jersey too?
So I actually started at Franklin and Marshall College in Pennsylvania, but then I finished up at TCNJ outside of Trenton.
Cool. Very cool. So here we are, political science kids.
Right.
Had a good time. Rutgers is always a good time. Grease trucks. I don't think they're there anymore though. But
I feel like they have to be.
I don't know. I hope someone lets me know if they're still there, the grease trucks.
Yeah.
And then took a break after that. Took a year, worked at a bank, I think, for a couple years. I like money, so it was very nice. It was a really nice place. I really liked the bank. And then I applied for grad school at Monmouth University and got into there. And I went into social work because I was going to make a positive difference.
Right. Yeah. In a different way. Yeah. Why was that? How did that I guess interest come about? Like why did that become like the next positive change that you wanted to kind of do or make?
So my parents being from Poland, they're both poor, and they had they came here with different circumstances and really cool stories. And because they came from a poor area and a poor community, there's always compassion and empathy for those that were lacking, right? Either whether it was food, water, homeless, and whatnot. And my parents always made sure to raise us to make sure that, like, when someone's down, you help them, right? Because if you can't empathize, at least provide compassion.
Right.
And so I wanted to do the whole altruistic thing. I wanted to, help people, help them get out of poverty. And, when you're a kid, you want to help the world, change the world, make a positive place. So thought that was going to be law. It wasn't. And then I met with a priest one day. A priest was a family friend. And I was like, I don't know what to do. My dad encouraged me. He said, go meet with this father, go meet with this priest, and talk to him. And I'm like, great. This is exactly what I want to do, is have a priest tell me what I want to do. My formable years, he's going to send me to the nunnery.
Yep.
And I'm not doing that shit. So, and he didn't. He was like, no, don't do that. You're going to waste your time. So he said, why don't you go into social work if you want to help people? And he's like, you don't want to do anything that you don't like because, and it was a really cool saying. He said, if you aren't living what you want to do, your life is like a heartbeat. You're flatlining. You're not living. You're dead. But when you're doing what you love and care about, it becomes that happy bounce and kind of like living your life, the ups and downs, similar to a heartbeat.
Right.
So he said, make sure you're living what you want to do. And look, I'm in my mid to late 30s. I still don't know what I want to do, but at least I know what I like to do. I know that I should be choosing things that I do like doing, even if they're not forever, because who knows, maybe I like what I do now. And then in 5 years, I'm going to say, no, I want to go be a gardener, a beekeeper.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Kind of cool anyway.
A beekeeper actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
You get to put like the suit on.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's pretty much it. And like honey. Huh?
Have you met one?
No.
Me neither.
See? They'd be very interesting to meet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they know so much about something that everyone's pretty much afraid of. But they're just like, yeah, I don't care. I'll go in there and I'll grab their honeycomb things and take it out and make honey and all that kind of stuff. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So
you ever see the guys with like I have a beard, but like the beard of bees? You ever see that?
No.
Like guys will like put like it's like a trick and they put like a bees on their face and it makes like a beard.
Ooh. That's gonna be a Google thing later.
Yeah, definitely Google that.
What is a beard?
A beard of bees. All right, so good thing we're staying on track. But no, that's yeah, exactly. So I totally agree with that. So like I'm 32. I've gone through a lot of different phases of life where like, political science degree. I didn't really even know what I was going to do with that. It was just like, I thought it was interesting and I took a couple of electives and they're like, pick a major. And I was like, I guess this, because that's what I have the most credits for. And then, like a couple of different jobs. And now I'm doing this stuff and still have another job and run a side bit. I'm doing like a lot of things, just trying to like see what clicks, you know what I mean? And so I definitely am on board with that. At what point, though, because this is our New Jersey Veteran Series, did like the military thing start to come into play as maybe like an option for something that you wanted to pursue?
Okay, so when I was like 12 or 13, I wanted to fly fighter jets.
Okay.
Which does not make sense for someone who's terrified of heights. Like I can't even. You've had a couple people on, I believe, that we all went skydiving, and I was not going to go that day. They were great encouragers. They're great, teammates. I ended up doing it, almost passed out and threw up on the way down, but I could say I did it. Right. And I don't have to do it again, but I did.
Almost means you didn't. So that's good.
You're absolutely right. So I did it. Pictures to prove it, which is cool because I don't remember anything. So I wanted to do that, but it was never like, I didn't come from a military family. The only military connection I had was my grandfather fought in World War II. And he wouldn't even talk about it. And he fought in Poland. He didn't fight here. And I had a cousin who went into the Marines as a reservist. And he was a weekend warrior, like a lot of other reservists were. When I was in grad school, my first year of grad school, I hated what they were telling me and teaching me because it was so different from what I was brought up with, where it's like you work hard. I'm not going to get into it because that's a whole political thing and I'm going to piss off a lot of people. So I don't want to get into that. So my thing was, I was just so angry. I was like, I got to do something else, man. This is like, I've been a book nerd. I've been in school forever. I was a 6-year bachelor's, I went to community college. It took me 6 years.
Yeah.
All this stuff. I was like, I got to do something else. And I was just like, I had like a calling. It's like almost like a calling to do. And I was like, I'm going to go to the recruiter. I'm going to ditch class. And I skipped class my second semester of a very expensive grad school. And I was like, I'm going to go to the recruiter. And I went to the recruiter and they had all the branches there. And I walked in and the first one that grabbed me was the Marine. He's like, come on in. He was warm and welcoming. And I was like, do you have this kind of job? And he's like, no, but we have these. And I was like, didn't click. Just really trying hard to get me in. Yeah. And then the Navy was like, oh, you got to set up an appointment. I was like, I'm here. Nah, you guys can't.
Yeah. Sorry, Navy.
Sorry, Navy. The Army guys walked in and they introduced, they said, hey, if you want to have a conversation, we can have a conversation. So I was like, all right, I'll have a conversation. And then I went into the Air Force office and no one was there. And the reason I tell you all of this is because this is almost how I told the story is almost the culture of all the branches, right? So it's like the Marines are enthusiastic and let's go, let's go, let's go. Navy, a little, by appointment only. Let's do some paperwork. The Army is its own thing, and then the Air Force, like you can't find them half the time. So it was very telling that day of what branch. So I went to the Army, and it fit. It was a good fit, and they explained some jobs that I could do, and I really liked the one civil affairs that I went into. And I left that day and I was like, oh man, I'm going to go and I don't want to. I had a feeling that I was going to end up going. And I was really excited, terrified. And I enlisted without telling my parents at 25 years old. I had a quarter life crisis. And then I did all the paperwork, all the tests, and then I told my parents, and they were very not happy. And they're like, all right, so you're just thinking about it. And I was like, no, I have a date. I have a date. So
yeah, it's already done.
It's already done. Because they would talk. I would probably listen to them and talk out of it. But
right, because you're still in grad school at this point, right?
Yeah. Why don't you finish grad school? It's expensive, keep going. But it's like, dude, how many times can you nerd out before you do something a little different, right?
Right.
So I did that, and I went to basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma in the middle of summer. I saw my first tumbleweed with 2 other people from New Jersey, and we stopped and we did like the 3-person glance. I'm like, that's a fucking tumbleweed. I'm not in New Jersey anymore.
Yeah, far away from home at that point.
Yeah, and then I went to finish school at Bragg, and then that's how it started. I left school in 2010 because it was just not for me anymore.
Right.
That time.
Yeah. So when you went initially into the recruiter office, like you mentioned that you asked the Marine recruiter if they had like these types of jobs, and he said no, but we have this stuff. Like, what were the things that you were looking to do initially? Did you have like an idea, or were you just kind of like, hey, these are some things that I'm interested in. What do you got, kind of thing?
I kind of followed my intuition, right? And I kind of wanted to look at jobs that were outside of the normal infantry, cook, transportation, admin. Like I was like, none of those felt right. The Marine was telling me what I could do, and none of them felt right. What I liked that the Army did, and it was a really good recruiter. The first recruiter was kind of like goofy, but the second guy was like, hey, come here. And he made me tell him similar to, I told him my story, and he goes, this job, civil affairs, would be really good for you. And he kind of like Harry Potter hat thing where that's like
the sorting hat.
Yeah, the sorting hat. Like that's kind of
I'm a nerd too.
All right, so you get it. I had like a sorting hat moment, and he was like, "You're a civil affairs soldier. That's where you belong." And when I started learning more about it, I got really excited about it because I was like, "That's what I wanted to do."
And what is civil affairs for those of us who know nothing?
Government to civilian liaison.
Okay.
So when it comes to government operations, you work with civilians or different NGOs to kind of minimize like risk of whatever the enemy might be doing. That's kind of an umbrella, because I don't remember. It's been so damn long that I don't actually. So.
It must have had a huge impact on your life.
So huge.
Okay, so I think the story that you were telling, we'll get back to kind of like where we are in that story. So you finish your training, you see the tumbleweed, the triple take type thing. So then take me through, how long were you in? So you were in the Army Reserves, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how long were you in for?
So I was in for 2011 to 2019, so 8 years. I'd finished my contract. I had one deployment to East Africa, Djibouti, which is fun to say.
The best place to say, yeah.
The best place to say. And no, a lot of people don't know where it is, but when they say it, it's fun to say. So there's a little lesson for that day. It's north of Somalia and east of Ethiopia.
Okay.
In the Horn of Africa, sub-Saharan. And it was really hot. So I went there in 2014, 15. That was fun. It wasn't like a combat deployment. It was a little bit different.
Sure.
But it was really hot because it's on the water. So you had
Africa. I feel like all of Africa is going to be hot. Like I've never been to Africa, but it strikes me as a hot place.
It's a hot place because it's got the humidity of the water. It's on the water, on the sea.
Yeah.
And then it's got the sub-Sahara heat. So it's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Pretty,
Yeah.
so
It doesn't sound something like I'm not a big heat guy. So I don't know if Djibouti would be a place for me to ever visit.
probably not. I wouldn't put that on your bucket list.
No, definitely not on the bucket list. But okay, so take me through just kind of like the overall experience of being in the military and all that. So the reason you told us that the reason why you had gone in initially was because you were looking for something else, looking to kind of like the quarter life crisis thing, like you said. Did it fill the void that you were looking to fill, or like take me through the experience of all that?
Sure. It definitely did, right? Because I had it, and I listened to my intuition. I think our gut feelings are pretty spot on when we actually listen to them. Like we can rationalize things all day, but there's sometimes a reason you have a reoccurring thought feeling. And I was like, I should do it, but I shouldn't. I try to talk myself out of it. I was like, I'm just going to go do it because I wanted to apply what I was learning in a different capacity into practice, right? So social work, it's like, you do all these great things, you try to help the community, you try to do this. And then I learned about civil affairs, which has, still a government entity, and I can't talk about it too much, but like you're still trying to like do cool shit too,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So I was like, let me try to go and apply what I'm actually learning overseas. Like it's not social work, but you learn a lot of things. You learn how to social work, right?
Right.
So
Dealing with
um,
people, solving problems, I guess stuff like that.
yeah, and then like that's not only with other people, but also your own team, right? So you have
Right.
to work as a team. You have to like build a team, work as a team, trust your team, grow as a team, fight as a team, argue as a team, um, all of those fun things. So it was really fulfilling. It was tough too because that's when, and this kind of will integrate into my later piece. This is why I'm inserting it now. It's like I kind of started drinking a lot too, right? So that's like when I joined the military, even a little bit beforehand, 25 years old, quarter life crisis, I started drinking a lot, drinking heavily, drinking with my peers, drinking in the military, drinking everywhere. So that's going to kind of tie into things later. And that's kind of why I'm introducing it now.
Sure.
Um, but I was still fulfilled in that capacity with what I did. And this was the first time being a nerd and hanging out with my cousins all the time and having a couple friends here and there. The army was the first time I actually got to socialize and really meet new people that like didn't really care too much about who I, what I do, what I did. Can I provide, bring to the table to help support the team?
Right.
A lot of so many people from so many different corners of the country that it was exciting to meet new people. So that there's like less judgment because there's so many different kinds of people. So it was really the first time that I was like, wow, there's people that I can talk to that like aren't my cousins or aren't like the people I went to high school with or the people from town or like this was cool. So
Yeah.
that was really fulfilling, and that's really enhanced my social really reduced my social anxiety over time too. So I'll always be grateful for meeting all the people I did.
Yeah.
A lot of weird people, a lot of cool people. I'm weird, so I could say that. And
Everybody's a little bit weird. I feel like everybody has like their thing that makes them just like, people would think that that's weird.
oh,
That's my personal opinion.
yeah, if you don't think you're weird, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If
But
you think you're totally normal, you are probably the weirdest one in the room.
yes, you you absolutely are. So that's got into the army. I deployed. So then it was even more people. Then you start working with people from different countries. You start working with locals. You start working with your team and whatnot. So it was nice to spend a lot of time, work out, do all the fun stuff. I looked really great after that deployment. Met my partner. So that's a great time to meet someone is post deployment when you look your absolute best. If you're that, you're like, wow, I worked out for this long.
Yeah.
Um, so that was that, and it's been fulfilling. I'm happy I'm out because I am out. After the deployment, things kind of was like I met what I needed. I got what I needed, and so then I decided not to reenlist after that.
Right. So this whole time, you're not back. You're not doing anything on the school side at all, right?
No.
You're just in the army. How did your parents at any point in time be like, okay, like we're happy that you did this? Does like you seem better, or this is definitely something for you, or are they still kind of like can't believe you didn't finish up school?
Oh my God. My mom was nervous as moms would be. My
Of
dad
course.
My dad went and got his gun license. He got an American flag. He like got a pickup truck. He was like,
He's all in.
this guy from Poland that came over here was like the biggest patriot, and he was so proud. He was, it was so proud, and to this day, he's still like he loves this country, and he loves that I served, and he loves my military discount. So I'm always like trying to keep on. I went to Lowe's today, and I got a Home Depot. You want to come with me? So.
Yeah.
No, but they're I was telling them I was deploying. They first are terrified.
Sure.
But it was fine. It was really fine. They're happy that I'm out, right? Especially with the way the world is right now. It's a little kooky. So
yeah, a little bit.
I'm happy I'm out too.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. And I'd encourage anyone that if they have a intuitive desire to do it, try it out.
Yeah.
Go talk to somebody.
Right. And then see who's there, who will talk to you and what clicks, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow the gut. I'm a big follow the gut guy myself. So, okay. So you do your deployment, and then you said shortly after that, you had gotten what you wanted out of that experience. And then, I guess at some point you get out. Like what was the kind of like how did you know that you felt ready to get out? And then kind of like what kind of pushed you to eventually leave the military and then go back to outside the post-military life?
The gut, number one, right?
Yep.
I got what I needed. I had some rough experiences with some people, and like most places that are very tight, there's some bullying, there's some just like, and it's weird to talk about it because it's like the military, right? Like it's so accepting. You're not bullied, you're this, you're that, but like there's a lot of bullying that happens too.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a female. There's a ton of sexual harassment. There's a ton of like stupid people you deal with, like stupid comments. Like my patience over time has been dwindling. Like it's really been dwindling, and like it really dwindled there. And I was like, I'm just not, you guys want to have these standards, but then you go do these things. Like, how am I supposed to be respectful of the standards that you keep? And then you go do stupid shit. Like, I'm not there for that. So and I met but on the flip side, I met a lot of positive people. And those positive people were telling me, these are things you can do after the military. And then it's like, the shiny coin. You're like, ooh, I want to go chase that now. Like I'm done with this. The novelty of it was gone. When I came home from my deployment, I met my boyfriend, and I really liked him. I still like him. I'm still with him 7 years later. And I didn't want to have those relationships where you leave people. I've left the people I love. I missed the holiday, and I commend anyone that stayed in for that long, but that just wasn't for me. I wanted to spend more time with my family.
Yeah. So what was the thing that you decided that you wanted to try to do after the military? Like what was like you said, people were like, oh, you can do this, you could do this, you could do this. What were things that you were just like, oh, maybe this is kind of like my plan. And when I get out, this is what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. So I had someone talk to me about government contracting, and it was on the entrepreneurial spirit. And I wanted to have my own business. I was like, I don't want to work for anyone anymore. I'm just too much of a nerd. I've like been isolated. It's like, it's my comfort to like be alone. And I wanted to get in government contracting. And then I was looking at, public health. I was looking at so many different avenues. I went back to working at a different bank. But nothing was like fitting, like that intuitive feeling wasn't there. And I started my own furniture flipping business. I don't know if you remember, but like back in 2016, 17, 18, everyone was painting or redoing furniture and selling it.
Yep.
And it was doing really well. I had a Facebook page. I had a bunch, thousands of likes. And but I was drinking too much, right? So this is the part, I was drinking too much. The money that I was making to provide, I bought a house at the time that was supposed to be going towards my mortgage, towards all this stuff. I was drinking it away. And my partner at the time was like, dude, what are you doing with yourself? But I didn't listen, right? Because when you're drinking, you just don't care.
Right.
You're just like too hungover to care. And be like, oh yeah, I won't drink anymore. I won't smoke anymore. And like, man, that headache sucks. I gotta go.
Hair of the dog, I guess.
Hair of the dog, right? So that was my transition. I came home. I had enough money saved up. I took a break. I took some time off. I, spent time with family. I just met my boyfriend then, so we did a lot of fun stuff. Spent time with my friends, a lot of fun stuff. So that excitement to do something died really quick when I was having a lot of fun and partying all the time.
Yeah.
And found a way to make cash money, which I love cash. I think all of us love cash. So I was flipping furniture for a while until I realized that maybe I should go back to school. You know, this isn't going to last forever.
Yeah. Right. Right. And then what did you go back to school for?
Social work.
Okay.
I
So
went back in
back
first
for,
degree.
yeah. There you go. Did you have, I mean, at least like have credits still
Ed.
active there? Well, there you go. That's great. What I think is interesting about this story, and there's a lot that's interesting about the story so far. That's just like one of my verbal tics. I said this on the most recent episode. I say this all the time. Like, I think what's interesting, but like, there's a lot that's interesting. Is that you had mentioned a couple times throughout the episode that like almost like your comfort zone is being alone. But then when you were in the military for, I think you said 8 years or whatever it was, like you're in civil affairs and like around people literally all the time. Like, what was, I mean, so you were just constantly outside of your comfort zone? Is that kind of just how it was, and you just either dealt with it or got more comfortable being there?
Yeah. I found people I like surrounding myself with. So in the military, I smoked cigarettes, right? We have our smoke pits. It's a gazebo. All the smokers will go outside and socialize. It becomes like the government commune. Like that's where all the decisions are made. No one knows about it. Like that's where all the decisions are made.
Right.
And then we implement them in the back. So non-smokers, sorry, you have a very big disadvantage there. But when you're a smoker, it's almost like this unspoken club rule where it's like, we should do this, let's do this, let's do this. And then we end up doing it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that intimate small times that people were together. I did enjoy that socialization. But man, when you're talking is a lot. You're like, I don't know how you
tell me about it. Yeah.
Talking to people, listening to people, it's like it could be exhausting. So I revert back to my isolation. I like closing the door and going for a walk, doing something. But that's where I talk about it's my comfort. That's my go-to.
Right. I gotcha. Yeah. I definitely feel that too. I mean, like literally this is what I do. Like I talk to people nonstop all day. I have been all day and I will continue after this. We were done recording this episode. But I do like at the end of the day where I get to come back to like my little apartment by myself, shut it down, not talk to anybody. I definitely can vibe with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So you decide you're going back to school then because you had like the side business and you said you were drinking the money away. Like, did you fix that problem or address that problem before going back to school? Or did you just go back to school to try to like do something else so that it wasn't like maybe readily available? I don't know.
So I was still drinking through grad school, right?
Okay.
I'd missed days of my I can't believe I'm saying this. I have my license now, so my
right. Yeah, you made it.
They can't take
it's
it
like
back
it's like the skydiving thing. Like you did it and there might have been some bumps in the road, but you made it through.
You can't take it back. No take
exactly.
Back. So I was drinking my whole time away through grad school. I was doing my furniture, doing my internships, doing this. I'd never go to class or my internship drunk, but there were times where drinking interfered with me going to these places, right?
Sure.
So I kept drinking. Because runs in my family. I like it. I loved it. I loved drinking. Drinking was my friend. Drinking was had a bad day. Let me go hang out with my friend. Right. I'm not going to tell you what beer I drank because I might get judged. But
you can tell me after, and then you can judge me for my choices too.
All right. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And it was like a friend. Alcohol was a friend. It was what made a bad day good and a good day better.
Right.
So I thought, right? Thought, because in reality, that was not the case. From the stories that I heard, that was not the case. I stopped drinking. Oh gosh, I don't have the exact day. I should. I think it was April 1st. Whenever COVID happened, right? So like March, that week in March, everything shut down.
Yep.
I called a counseling center and I was like, oh, I guess I can't go to work. Like I'm drinking too much, I think. And I was not committed to stop drinking. I called just to shut my boyfriend up that I need to stop drinking. So I was like,
right.
Okay, let me just call this place. And I called somewhere and they said that they were a private pay place only, but they helped me find a place for my insurance. And I called and I got linked up with a counselor. And mind you, I went to school for social work, therapy, all that mental health, fun stuff that we talk about. And I went to my first therapy session. She goes, oh, yeah, you have really bad anxiety. I'm like, what the fuck is anxiety? Right? Like, I have anxiety. I'm like, I
You
don't have
sure you have
anxiety.
your license, or like what's going on here?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't have anxiety. She goes, you have anxiety. I'm like, no, I don't have anxiety. Like I argued with her and I was like, I do have anxiety. Shit, I have anxiety. Because mental health was never talked about in my family, right?
Right.
Like when my parents came from a different culture, especially like a post-war, post-World War II,
Yeah.
communist bloc, immigrating over here, being bullied for being Polish because they were Polish in the time when Poles were being racist. I can't think of the word. Made fun of a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so it was never talked about. There's never nothing about mental health was ever talked about. But here I was going to school for mental health and social work, thinking that I knew things, and I didn't until I experienced a lot of different mental health things myself. And I had to have a look in the mirror, and I was like, "Oh my god, she's right. When things get stressful, I drank, and I'm not stressed anymore."
Yeah.
Um, and I celebrated with alcohol before I go out with friends. I didn't have alcohol. When, bad day, someone yelled at me, I had alcohol. So I was like, oh man, I have anxiety. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That was a fun aha moment right there when you're like in your 30s, you're like, I have anxiety.
Yeah.
So I did therapy with her and I've stopped drinking. I stopped drinking all during COVID and we didn't know how long COVID was going to happen. And I
Yeah.
really, really think that therapist kind of saved my life at that time because had I been working from home, which I did have that capability at the time, with alcohol, I don't think I would have been very healthy right now. I think I
Yeah.
would have been in a different place.
Right.
So that's my life with alcohol or lack thereof now.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that you stopped because I mean, obviously, like a lot of people definitely went the other way during COVID because, like, what else was there to do here? So like I would be in my apartment all alone. I was like, all right, I guess we'll drink and we'll get on Zoom with some friends and they'll be drinking too and it'll be, whatever. But yeah, so I mean, especially during a time that was like a lot of stress for a lot of people. And then you also realizing that you actually have anxiety. I'm sure like that also played a part in it too. So let's take us through like how you're doing now and what you're doing now. So you make it through that, you're done with school, you have your license. All that kind of stuff. So like maybe take me through like the types of stuff that you're doing now, and then how you're doing.
Okay. So, biggest contradiction here is that I'm actually a mental health therapist, right? So, which
Yeah.
means I talk and listen to people all day too, even though I say I like
There's
don't
a
like.
lot of there's a lot of interesting dynamics here in this whole story. I love it.
Yeah, but I'm a mental health therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have my own private practice. I work and see a lot of veterans, and that's kind of my way of giving back is helping them come through different transitions, substance use, anxiety. Right. I've made it a really big point to study my trade, study what I do, study different treatment modalities. My work is heavy in trauma and anxiety, and a lot of trauma and a lot of diagnosable codes. I'm going to say that because insurance makes us have labels on this mental health. Is rooted in anxiety, right? Like obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Anger, anxiety, substance use, anxiety. So my treatment modalities, I'm trained in a couple EMDR. I'm going into internal family systems. Got certified, not certified. That's the wrong word. I'm trained in Gottman, which is relationships, and women with perinatal postpartum depression. So I'm trying to go into the places that are like people have a lot of anxiety,
Yeah.
try to help them get out of it. Um, and I have not been able to give back to the veteran community as much as I could this past year. I did have a baby recently. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And I was on bed rest and pelvic rest, so I was not doing anything. I couldn't do much. The year before that, I was with the Travis Manion Foundation. I was through their Spartan Leadership Program, doing a lot of veteran activities as well on the outside. But that is the intention next year, that I'm actually mobile and actually able to do things. Linking up with different mental health treatment facilities that do work with veterans so that I can provide maybe more one-on-one therapy as opposed to that group setting, that transition, really just trying to help them the same way I was helped, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the military or not that use alcohol for their coping skill.
Yeah.
So, and with other substances too, I'm not limiting that to just alcohol.
Right, for sure. So was there like you had like your own stuff going on, right? And then you're also in school, finishing school, getting your degree, all that kind of stuff. Um, was there like certain points of like imposter syndrome? And then were there also certain points of like feeling that you kind of were on the right track so that you could actually actually help people now? Does that question make sense?
Kind of, yeah.
That wasn't
And
a great worded question, but I've done great so far. So just you'll have to give me that one.
I'm gonna just try to answer that some way.
Sure. Yeah.
Imposter syndrome, I have it every day, right? Imposter syndrome is like, how am I helping somebody when I can't always have empathy with their whatever they bring in? I don't know
Right.
what they're going through. So I try to offer compassion instead. Um, huh. What was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Just knowing that also I guess the reverse of that, like knowing that you're actually like making a difference.
Knowing that I make a difference, I hope so. Uh,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know, like
I don't know. I mean, it's like because I feel like imposter syndrome goes in waves, at least for me, right? It's like I feel like I'm crushing life
mhm,
sometimes, and then I feel like nobody's listening to this show ever. I should just give up, crawl into a hole, and never come out. But I think it kind of like goes in waves. So I was just curious if there was like a moment where it kind of like seemed to click more, and you kind of like got rolling a little bit to kind of like make yourself feel like this is what I was supposed to do. This gut feeling was correct, and now we're going with it.
test and trial. Yeah, whenever I have imposter syndrome outside of the daily, am I even a good therapist? Am I even a therapist? Am I even, I'm always comparing myself to somebody else. One, that I find out that comparison is a thief of joy. So cut that shit out.
Yeah.
Right. Then I'm like, all right, maybe it's time to what is making me feel like I'm an imposter? Is it I'm on social media too much? Is it I talk to someone that's doing better than me or what I perceive as better?
Sure.
And then I'm like, is that even what I want to do? Like just because that person's doing something better, wait a minute. I have to check in with myself, be like, it's not even something I want to do. Why am I comparing? And is this imposter even real? Um, and then if I really get imposter syndrome, then I go try something out to make that imposter feel lessened. So if it's like, hey, I don't feel like I'm a good runner today. I don't know. Not that I've been running, right? It's a little cold.
I've
But
never run, so it doesn't matter.
yeah, so let me just go for a run and I can say I'm a runner that day. I am no longer an imposter because I
Yep.
do it. Right.
Yeah.
So um I always try to combat that. And then I always try to add new things that I thought I would never do to combat that imposter syndrome. Like the skydiving thing.
Yeah.
Now you've met your biggest fears, the imposter goes away because it's like, well, you did this. What are you so scared of that you're an imposter?
Right.
You've done bigger, better, harder things.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. And then kind of like looking back over the course of, because this has been great so far, and we're coming up on the end of the episode, but looking back on just kind of like life, right? So like, did you ever kind of like expect this was going to be the path, or is just kind of just constantly just following the gut and be like, well, whatever happens with the gut the next time is going to be like what I do next? Is that kind of how it just operates, I guess?
1,000%.
Yeah.
Because when I try to plan something, the universe throws it in my face and laughs, and
Right.
then it just doesn't work out. But when I follow that gut feeling, um, and kind of give up control, right? Especially after drinking, I've learned that anxiety of giving up control. I've had much more positive results and positive things. I met positive people, met positive groups of people. Still in contact with different veteran groups. The networking I've done with peers within my field is fantastic. This is nothing I would have seen even a year ago, right? Even like 2 years ago, even 10 years ago. What happening today, um, I I wouldn't be able to make it up. I couldn't dream what I'm doing now up.
Right.
So it's pretty remarkable when you give up control and let what life is supposed to happen to some extent, right? Because you still got to pay your bills,
Sure.
still got to
Yeah.
do those
You can't
adult
give up total
things.
control,
Can't get total control, but if you kind of let that go, really cool shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's I think a great kind of little nugget at the end to kind of like wrap this episode up. So I really appreciate you coming on the episode with us today. If people want to like connect with you or learn more about you or whatever the case may be, are there places that they can go to do that?
Sure. So I have my private practice. So I guess like the email connection through
Sure.
that It's the Grounded Soul Counseling and Wellness. That's the website. And if anyone asks you, I'll be happy to send them a link.
Yep.
My Instagram handle, I think it's the Grounded Soul. I'm not on social media too much. I don't have a TikTok. I don't even know what TikTok is, but apparently all the kids are doing it these days.
All the kids.
Facebook, they can look up my name, send me a message if they have any questions. My practice now, for future reference, I'm going to be trying different modalities like walking and talking instead of sitting in an office and doing cool things. So if people are into mental health and alternative ways to do mental health, they can always reach out and ask any questions.
Awesome. I love that. I'll make sure that I put those links and stuff in the show notes that people can just scroll down and click it if they want to reach it, like go to the website and all that kind of stuff. So again, Krystyna, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story with us today. Crushed episode 5, our first female veteran that we've had on the show. Third Army veteran we've had on the show. We've done 3 Army, 1 Navy, 1 Air Force so far. But yeah, this was phenomenal. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for everybody listening, this has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We were here today with Krystyna Cechulski. Crushed it again. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.